banging on about Axl Rose for the rest of your life. Do you?
No. Yeah, it's a lot of attention put on a lot of negative stuff. And
why? Slash, the guitarist who turned primal screams into melody, who transformed addiction, loss, and loneliness into solos that brought an entire generation to its knees. When Guns N' Roses exploded onto the scene like a thunderstorm, all eyes were on Axl Rose, screaming into the mic. But behind him, partially hidden in the shadows, stood Slash, his guitar wailing like it was bleeding, each note sounding like a final breath from a soul that had nothing left to lose. He died once, literally. His heart stopped. Drugs, alcohol, sorrow, everything dragged him to the edge. And yet he came back, picked up his guitar, and kept playing, not for the fame, not for the money, but because music was the only thing keeping him from disappearing completely. You might know Slash through Sweet Child O' Mine, Welcome to the Jungle, or recognize the immortal silhouette of the top hat and the curtain of curls. But you don't know about the night his best friend died in his arms, or the day his stepdaughter passed away while the world speculated online. You don't know what it cost him, just to still be here, to still be standing, alone, between the howls of the past and the roar of the crowd. This is the journey of a soul screaming in silence. And you're about to uncover the truth about Slash, not the stage legend, but the man beneath the hat. The one who once collapsed, and dragged himself back with notes forged in hell. Born Saul Hudson in July 1965 in Hampstead, London, Slash was never meant to fit in. His father, Anthony Hudson, was a white English artist who designed album covers for legends like Neil Young. His mother, Ola Hudson, was a stylish, black American fashion designer whose clients included David Bowie, Diana Ross, and Ringo Starr. Slash was a child of two worlds, one rooted in prim British artistry, the other in racially complex America. He once said, "My father was the rebel in the family. He went to art school, married a black woman, and joined rock and roll culture. His family never accepted that." By age 5, the divide cost them everything. Slash's paternal relatives cut them off, and the family relocated to Los Angeles, settling in Laurel Canyon, a bohemian paradise of the 1970s, filled with smoke, rock music, and beautiful chaos. Joni Mitchell, Carly Simon, Jim Morrison, Glenn Frey, they were all shadows in his childhood. But beneath the glamour was a boy who felt invisible. As he got older, he grew quieter. Then came the divorce. His mother grew closer, professionally and personally, to David Bowie. His father slipped into alcoholism. Slash was left drifting, bouncing between broken homes, soaking in arguments and absences with no one to explain what was happening. He acted out, fighting, stealing, getting expelled, and even detained by police. By age 12, he was living like an adult, just without a direction. For a while, BMX biking gave him purpose. He raced, competed, even earned local fame. But the joy was fleeting. The void inside him remained. Then it happened, by chance. Slash heard an old Aerosmith vinyl. The raw, screeching blues-infused guitar sparked something in him. He didn't understand it. He didn't need to. All he knew was, he had to play guitar. No money for lessons, no formal training, just an old guitar, a chord book, and endless hours of relentless practice. 10 to 12 hours a day, fingers bleeding, wrists aching. But he didn't stop. He trained by ear, rewinding solos by B.B. King, Led Zeppelin, Clapton, Joe Perry, Hendrix. Mimicking. Improvising. Slowly building a sound that wasn't just skill, it was survival. During this time, he met Steven Adler, an instinctive, wild drummer. They clicked. Formed bands. Failed. Tried again. And Slash kept getting better. One day, he performed a Van Halen-style solo at school. The same classmates who'd mocked him for his long hair, his silence, his strangeness, suddenly stared in awe. Music had cracked open the first door out of his darkness. From that moment on, he didn't dream of fame. He didn't care about the future. He just knew that the guitar made the chaos go quiet. In the early 1980s, Slash stepped into the professional scene. He joined a group called Road Crew with Adler, and they soon connected with Duff McKagan, a Seattle punk bassist. Then came the real clique, Axl Rose and Izzy Stradlin, two outcasts from Indiana. They were strange. They were intense. And they were exactly what Slash needed. Guns N' Roses was born in 1985. Rehearsals were chaotic marathons, nights without food, days without sleep, surviving on cigarettes and bread. But something electric was happening. Slash didn't speak. He didn't need to. When he played, the room stopped breathing. In 1986, the band signed with Geffen Records. They recorded Appetite for Destruction in gritty, low-budget conditions, but Slash poured everything he had into it. The riff for Welcome to the Jungle was a battle cry. Sweet Child O' Mine began as a finger exercise, but Slash turned it into one of the most haunting melodies in rock history. The album was released in July 1987 and was initially ignored. MTV refused to air the videos, radio stations hesitated. But the people couldn't look away. Sweet Child hit number 1. Paradise City became a stadium anthem. Jungle appeared in games, films, and TV. Slash became an icon, without ever saying a word. He wasn't like Van Halen. No flashy finger-tapping. Slash played from the soul. From the wound. Every solo was a wordless confession. In 1988, GNR Lies followed, controversial but multi-platinum. Slash began collaborating with giants, Michael Jackson, Alice Cooper. But the peak came in 1991. The band released Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 together. Both albums landed at number 1 and number 2 on Billboard. Unheard of. Unmatched. Slash was the heart of those records. He crafted the aching solos of November Rain, the anguish of Don't Cry. While Axl was the tragic poet, Slash was the soul scream. He was the one slashing the melody into words, the silent soul bleeding through every note. As Guns N' Roses launched some of the biggest tours in rock history, everything behind the scenes was starting to rot. Slash's substance abuse worsened, Axl Rose became increasingly controlling, and shows were delayed by fights and chaos. Fans rioted. The press circled like vultures. The band teetered on the brink of collapse. But Slash kept playing. Drunk, sleepless, his guitar became part of his body. No one knew he was self-destructing, but everyone could feel it. Each wailing wah pedal, each string bend, was a cry from the abyss. After the Use Your Illusion era, Axl pulled tighter on the reins. He took control of everything, the songs, the showtimes, even the band's name. Slash, a creature of instinct who hated conflict, just wanted the music to feel real again. But the tension spiraled. Axl wanted to replace bandmates, change the band's direction to industrial rock, and claim Guns N' Roses as solely his. Slash couldn't take it. In 1996, he walked away. And when the media asked questions, Slash stayed silent, but Axl didn't. In 2006, Axl claimed Slash had begged to reunite and had badmouthed Duff McKagan and Scott Weiland. The media jumped on it. Slash was painted as the traitor, the man kicked out of his own band. But none of it was true. In his 2007 memoir Slash, he made it clear, he hadn't seen Axl since the day he left. What hurt most wasn't the lie, but having to explain himself to his new band, Velvet Revolver. What hurt the most wasn't Axl, he wrote. It was having to justify myself to people who were supposed to know me. For a decade after Guns N' Roses, Slash lived like a man left behind. He formed Slash's Snake Pit, then Velvet Revolver, even won a Grammy. But deep inside, the wound never healed. Axl and Slash, one obsessed with control, the other born to be free, were made to create eternal music and to destroy each other in the process. Then, in 2015, something unthinkable happened. Axl Rose called. No media stunt, no PR move, just a phone call. They spoke, man to man, for the first time in 20 years. And in 2016, Guns N' Roses reunited for the Not in This Lifetime tour, a title mocking everyone who said they'd never share a stage again. The tour became one of the highest grossing of all time, earning over $580 million. But for Slash, it wasn't about the money. It was about the moment, standing beside Axl again, the lights sweeping over them, and the opening riff of Welcome to the Jungle echoing through the crowd like no dream had ever been shattered. But behind the spotlight was pain, real, unspoken, and brutal. Slash was always that figure hunched over his Les Paul, hair veiling his face, melting into the strings. What no one saw was a body falling apart, a heart cracking open. In 1987, as Appetite for Destruction soared, Slash flew to New York to meet his best friend, Todd Crew, bassist of Jetboy. They laughed, drank, rode a horse-drawn carriage through Central Park. Then heroin entered the picture. 18 hours later, Todd collapsed. Slash tried CPR. Called for help. It was too late. Todd died in his arms at just 21. At the funeral in L.A., Slash didn't just mourn, he was blamed. Friends whispered that he'd taken Todd there, that he dragged him into it. Slash said nothing. But the wound never healed. From then on, he spiraled further, drinking, shooting up, screaming into silence. Every addiction became a punishment for not saving his friend. And in 2001, the price came due. Slash collapsed during a tour. Diagnosed with cardiomyopathy, heart failure from years of abuse. Doctors told him he had 6 days to live. Maybe 6 months. A defibrillator was implanted in his chest. There were no crowds, no lights, just 4 lines and monitors. Slash didn't vow to change. He didn't give a redemption speech. He simply lived. 1 hour at a time. Recovery took years. He didn't get clean because he feared death. He got clean because he was too tired to keep living like he already was dead. When asked how it felt to survive, he smirked and said, "I'm not a health icon. I'm just a survivor." In his personal life, Slash always stood one step behind the spotlight. While Axl screamed and burned across the stage, Slash just played, as if no one was watching. But behind that calm presence was a broken private world. In 1992, he married model Renee Saran. 5 years later, they parted, no drama, just distance. Then came Perla Farrer, the woman who brought warmth back into his life. They married in 2001 and had 2 sons, London Emilio and Cash Anthony. Slash embraced fatherhood, driving to games, building Lego, even saying, "Music saved me. But my kids gave me a reason to keep going." Yet even that light dimmed. In 2010, as Slash fought to stay sober and launch a solo career, the marriage cracked. They filed for divorce twice, reconciled twice. But by 2014, it ended for good. This time it was messy. Legal battles. Financial disputes. Perla demanded support and a share of income until 2036. Slash didn't fight. He just wanted peace. "I didn't want my life to turn into a paperwork war," he said. "I just wanted peace. But peace is something I've never really had." After the dust settled, he quietly reconnected with Megan Hodges, his former flame, his calm after the storm. From 1989, she had been a distant chapter in Slash's life, someone he had quietly parted ways with for decades. But in 2015, there was no grand reunion, no tabloid headlines. Just 2 people, once broken in different ways, finding each other again when the timing was finally right. Yet even when love found its way back into his world, loss continued to knock. On July 22, 2024, Slash posted a quiet, heartbreaking message on Instagram. Lucy Blue Knight, Megan's daughter, whom Slash had always considered his own, had passed away at just 25. The cause of death wasn't disclosed. In his words, "A gifted, dreamy, and sweet soul. This world was just too heavy for you." Just hours later, a scheduled post appeared on Lucy's own account, a long, sorrowful apology, overflowing with pain that had been held in for too long. Slash pleaded with the world not to speculate, not to turn tragedy into entertainment. The man who had survived addiction, heart failure, betrayals, and broken bands, who had carried so many burdens silently, now faced a pain no riff could release. There was no solo long enough to carry these tears. So he did what he always did in the face of overwhelming grief. He fell silent. He picked up his guitar, bowed his head, and let the silence speak. As Slash turned 60, he did so quietly. No celebrations, no tell-all memoirs, no cries for attention. He didn't look back or live in the past. He still woke up early, tuned his guitars, practiced riffs, and rewired pickups like a man untouched by time. While many of his peers stepped away from the spotlight into nostalgia or comfort, Slash stood firm, Les Paul in hand, curls falling forward, playing as if every show might be his last. After the Not in This Lifetime tour reunited Guns N' Roses and brought in over $580 million, Slash didn't retreat into retirement. Instead, with Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators, he released a series of raw, personal albums. Apocalyptic Love *, 2012, World on Fire, 2014, and Living the Dream, 2018. These weren't made for chart-topping fame, they were true expressions of who Slash had become, anchored in honesty, emotion, and craft. Then in 2024, he returned with Orgy of the Damned, his sixth solo album, a deep dive back into the blues, a place where his soul had always lived. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't built for arenas. It was haunting and heavy, each note a shadow, each riff a scar. He brought in legends like Brian Johnson, Steven Tyler, and Chris Stapleton, not for fame, but because they, too, had survived. It wasn't music for celebration. It was music for those who knew what it meant to stay alive through sound. Beyond music, Slash gave back. He founded the SEN Festival, a blues-driven charity event raising funds for organizations like the Equal Justice Initiative and War Child, using the guitar not just as a weapon of expression but as a tool for healing. A portion of each tour's earnings went to causes supporting justice, children in conflict zones, and forgotten souls, just as he once felt forgotten. At home in Encino, California, he lives among over 400 guitars and dinosaur models from his youth. He still loves vintage cars, still builds Lego with his sons, still drives them to school when he can. He never claimed to be a role model, never preached rock and roll philosophies. He just stayed Slash, quiet, real, relentless. His legacy needs no spotlight. Technically, he may not be the fastest or most complex guitarist, but he's one of the most emotionally resonant in rock history. Slash fused blues heartache with the grit of 70s and 80s rock, crafting a sound instantly recognizable and deeply felt. His solos in Sweet Child O' Mine, November Rain, Estranged, and Paradise City didn't just become hits, they became emotional landmarks. That intro to Sweet Child O' Mine? It's one of the defining riffs of the 80s. The solo in November Rain? One of the most enduring guitar ballads ever written. Culturally, Slash became an icon, his wild curls, top hat, sunglasses, and Les Paul forming a silhouette seen in video games, comics, merchandise, and dreams. Gibson has released multiple Slash signature Les Pauls, among the highest-selling guitars of all time. But it's not the gear that made him a legend, it was the way he used it. He wielded the wah pedal like a cry, not a gimmick. His solos felt like survival. He inspired millions, not with words, but with the rawness of sound, teaching bedroom dreamers and future rock stars alike that guitar wasn't about showing off, it was about showing truth. Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2012, named among Rolling Stone's 100 greatest guitarists of all time, praised in Guitar World, Classic Rock, Kerrang, and more, Slash has racked up accolades. But his true legacy is this: with one note, you know it's him. In an age where music is increasingly digital, perfect, and distant, Slash remains raw, instinctive, flawed, and real. He never chased legend status, and that's exactly why he became one. Slash proves that rock still has a soul. And if you've ever turned to music not just for fun, but to breathe, to survive, then chances are, somewhere along the way, Slash's guitar helped you find your way through. So if his playing ever struck a chord deep inside you, don't forget to leave your thoughts below, like the video, and subscribe, because some legends are still alive. Still playing. Still real in a world growing more artificial.